Hi, I've been thinking for a long time how I can help you understand my my thinking process and how I study not only the Bible but how I study life and how to live a better life. That doesn't mean that flawless or any other human disclaimer that's out there about not being perfect, but my hope is that at least I can contribute to helping you do better in life, whether it's learning from our mistakes that I am explaining to you, learning from my faults, or maybe there's a nugget of wisdom through my lectures here, if you will, or my notes here that will be helpful to you and your life. So that's my prayer moving forward, and also with doing these videos here. I hope it helps. That doesn't mean every single one is going to help. And more importantly, I pray that the Spirit of God speaks to you more so than these videos. I love you. I love you very much. But my love does not nearly compare to the love that God, our Father, has for you. And so, yeah, I pray that you take it well. Today I'm just going to start off real quickly in the beginning of the Bible, the book of Genesis. A lot of people don't know that that's the first book, but the book of Genesis is the first book of the Bible. Starting at verse 1, chapter 1, verse 1. And this is today's New International Version. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So what does this mean to me? How am I studying this? What am I observing, interpreting? How am I going to apply this? It's a traditional method, Bible study method, called inductive Bible study. But essentially, how am I looking at these words, at this story that's being told in the beginning about God from a biblical perspective, and how am I taking that in? How am I processing that? What do I think about it? So in the beginning, what does that mean? In the beginning, well, I look like it stopped for a second, but that's my first question. In the beginning, what does that mean? Well, considering I hear a lot, having not grown up religious or going to church or going to a temple or anything like that, what I do know, since I'm reading this book, is that we're talking about the beginning of life, the beginning of time, the beginning of this world, perhaps even the beginning of this universe. So that's how I'm thinking about that first part already, in the beginning. And then it says God. So from there, I already know, okay, this God, it must be some supreme being, which has this name associated as God, and he, she is invisible. It's gender neutral here. I don't know yet if it's a he or she, or if it even matters. I just know it's this supreme being at the very beginning. And what does this supreme being do? This supreme being God do? Well, he created the heavens and the earth. Now, if I never heard of heavens, I'd have to do a little bit more digging. But because my family does come from a church background, a Christian background, both Protestant branch and Catholic branch, then so I already know that there is a heaven, because it's often talked about how people go to heaven or hell. However, what sticks out to me in this first verse is heavens. God created heavens. It's more than one. Now that's very interesting, because I don't hear many pastors or preachers talk about how there is more than one heaven. So that makes me think a little more. It makes me want to study this a little more. And then the second part, of course, earth. It's where we live at right now. And then moving on to the second verse. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was hovering over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. from that, I know this earth uh, had no shape. Uh, in some ways, you can say it was a mess. Darkness was everywhere, at least over the deep, deep what? Well, I know it means the deep waters because there's something else that's over a surface or over these waters, and that's the Spirit of God, which is interesting because there's the Supreme Being, and then it talks about how there's God. So, or the Spirit of God. So, there's two kind of supreme beings that I see here. So here it looks like God is like a person, right? And then to say Spirit of God makes it look like there's a spirit, like a spirit inside of a human being or inside of an animal, that there's a spirit inside of God. So it's quite interesting to see that here already. I'll talk probably a little more about that later, not in this message today. All that to say that this earth, there, with all the science and archaeologists' background or information and history, I already know that the earth started somehow, and here it at least gives me an idea of how it started. This earth started because it was created by the supreme being called God, and it was pretty much, it had no shape. It was like just a ball of mud, if you will, ball of dirt, clay, whatever, or maybe it's just some kind of sphere of water. I have no idea. There's just no shape to it. It's just water, and this earth. Typically, when people talk about earth, they mean it in the sense of dirt. So that's my thinking right here. I guess I'll talk a little bit more about the next verses next weekend, but hopefully you're already starting to get an idea of how I look at this Bible here, looking at these words, this text, and how I'm trying to process what I'm reading here and also apply it to my life. So the takeaway that I have here is I take that, okay, there's definitely a beginning in the Bible from a biblical perspective. There's more than one heaven. There's this massive kind of dirt object called Earth that's just sitting in space somewhere, or the universe somewhere, and God had created this thing called Earth, and it's had no shape, and there's darkness all over it, and there's water within this Earth object, and lots of water because it's deep water, and so God's Spirit hovers over it. So I'm thinking about all that. There's no light, there's no, because it's formless. So that's what I'm thinking.